When was the last year that the school board proposed, or in this case passed, no increase in property taxes?
Right, so I want to start this one out with, it was the word proposed that I guess I wanted to be careful with, because our board does not go in starting out at, here's the millage we want you to put in. We always start with, let's hope we can do zero, and that's our thought. So every budget process is started out with, let's assume zero, and build the budget and see what we can do. So I wanted to be careful about the word, to not make it seem like our board immediately goes in with the millage. They do not. We go in with the assumption of zero, and we build all of that. But as we've been talking about, the lack of funding from the state, the increased costs that we really have little control over, it is very, very difficult. But we do start out with the thought assumption of zero. So the 1999-2000 school year was the last year that there was no tax increase here at this district, so 20 years ago. So, and we recognize that, we've talked about that, how difficult it is, and talking about our community, being cognizant of our community, and that line between producing and providing an educational program that this community wants, desires, the economy wants and desires, and balancing that with millage that we feel our community overall can sustain. But that's the answer.
And then keep going.
Oh, yeah, so then I did want to talk a little bit about what we have gotten. So the governor's budget for 1920, what the governor is giving us in additional revenue. So our basic ed subsidy increased by $204,000. Our special ed subsidy increased almost 136, for a total increase of $340,000. Just to give you some perspective, our overall salary increases across the whole district are right around the $400,000 mark. So that $340,000 doesn't even cover our one line item of salaries. And that doesn't bring into effect then the PSERS increase, the healthcare increases, etc. So, but we did want to let you know what is in the governor's budget. I want to address a little bit more about the special ed subsidy, and we've talked about this before, but it's critical. So you can see all the way down here in 2008-9 that we were a little bit over $6 million for our total cost of special education. Of that piece, this green piece is what the state gave us. They gave us $2.5 million in 8-9 of the $6 million. So they funded 42% of special ed. In 18-19, you're going to see this green line didn't move a whole lot. We are now at $2.9 million of a $12 million total special ed cost. They are now funding 25% of our special ed. And so unfortunately that gap from 08-09 up here to 18-19 has been made in a combination of local sources being increased, real estate taxes, other costs being cut, or other ways of managing this gap that we are required to fill in special ed, and with the state lacking in increasing and keeping their funding equivalent to what it was back in 8-9. So these are, and Steve's going to address this later, this is a classic state mandate of special education. And trust me, I mean, we treat every child here the same. Every child deserves to learn. Unfortunately, the children with disabilities do require more monies and a lot of outside placements, and those costs have drastically increased. Part of that is our population here. So the state average is actually 4 out of every 25 students, or 16%, require special education services. Here in Governor Mifflin, we have 5 out of every 25, or 20% of our students have some kind of special education service that they're receiving. So that also drives the costs. But once they're identified, then we are mandated to provide specific services.